Let's talk about the ACC tournament real quick. Unfortunately, it's in Brooklyn, New York, which makes no sense. First off, I mean,
Lame.
went to the Brooklyn one, saw
Be
Duke
dead.
Carolina play when it was the Luke May year with like Marvin Bagley and those guys. I mean, you might as well have been at a Hornets Timberwolves game. There is no difference.
Well, they don't care about the ACC up there. It's not their fault. They didn't grow with ACC basketball.
It makes no sense. It legitimately makes no sense. The other night I went through, I'll be writing an article on cartercast.com coming out soon, that the attendance in Greensboro is higher than any other year ever. What was it in 2020? Remember when it is Carolina. They were playing on that Tuesday in Greensboro. That does help, but there was 15,000 fans.
Yeah,
I mean, and that was a true 15,000 on Tuesday of the ACC tournament. You want to see Tuesday of the ACC tournament year. in Brooklyn? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to have less fans at the ACC tournament on Tuesday in Brooklyn than they did last year at the Greensboro Coliseum when they were only allowed 2,800 seats. There is going to be about 1,500 people there max on that Tuesday. Max.
The thing is that it's not their fault. They just don't give a shit about ACC basketball. It's always been Big East.
I don't understand the concept because I know you can make the argument oh well, teams up north like Syracuse and Boston College want to be able to come see.
They're literally just jacking off Jim Boeheim is what they're doing. Because is that insane?
Well, and then he complains about Greensboro, and then they're like, "Hey, stop talking about Greensboro." So he had to come up with some BS apology, and so, but every time it's in Greensboro. Once it hits Wednesday, it's almost a sellout every time.
He's just mad because, the North Carolina teams have a home court advantage when they play Syracuse, Louisville, whoever it may be. But that's just how it is.
Guess what? And
you joined the conference 7 years ago.
I saw Syracuse play in New York. They don't have a home court advantage there either. Guess you know what? Exactly. You know who had the most fans there? Duke, Carolina, Virginia. You know who has the most fans in Greensboro? Duke, Carolina, Virginia, and NC State.
And they brought less revenue in New York, I guarantee. And they had to pay for more for the venues and all that stuff. Flying all the teams out there. A lot of teams.
The Greensboro Coliseum is willing to work with the ACC on all this kind of stuff. And the Greensboro Coliseum holds 3,000 more seats than the Barclays Center. I understand that it's all about corporate sponsorships and the whole New York Life sponsorship probably makes all the difference. And Greensboro Coliseum doesn't have enough suites. But it's still ridiculous that they're moving this tournament up to New York when it's just there's nobody there. It looks stupid on TV. It flat out looks stupid.
And having 4 different locations, there's zero consistency.
No,
it's so annoying. It's so annoying.
Just play in Greensboro. It's so stupid. And they're like, oh, well, let's move to Charlotte and stuff. No, play in Greensboro. That's where the ACC belongs. That's where the ACC started. You promote this whole documentary saying, oh, back in Greensboro where the ACC started, we love our roots. And then
but now we're going to sell out.
Then Jim Phillips decides to come in. His first move is, all right, yeah, let's leave Greensboro. F this. I don't want to live in Greensboro.
I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's just the thing is the ACC is in a real crisis right now, and the last thing they need to be worrying about is relocation for the conference because that's not going to make one damn lick of a difference between going from Charlotte to Greensboro to New York. That makes zero difference. The SEC is in Birmingham, Alabama. They had the opportunity to move to Atlanta. They're in Birmingham, Alabama, and they're the number 1 conference in basketball and football right now.
And the thing is, it would be different if the Greensboro Coliseum brought in very lackluster numbers of fans. There's only a few thousand people show up one day. Give me a break. It's packed every single day there.
Wednesday at noon, it'll be NC State versus Georgia Tech, and that place is filled to the rafters.
Exactly. People just come because they like watching it. There's a lot of people that just come on Tuesday and Wednesday that are Carolina Duke fans, even though they don't play for a couple of days.
And to gain exposure, that makes no sense.
It doesn't.
Everybody knows what the ACC is. You're not fooling anybody.
It's not a startup league.
Nobody in New York cares 2 craps about the ACC tournament besides a few ACC tournament fans. But you're just taking it away from real ACC tournament fans in North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and forcing them to travel up to an expensive trip up to New York.
There's a reason the majority of the original ACC teams were located down in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia.
And then you have to fight with the Big East tournament.
Exactly.
You're fighting for fans that are going to the Garden, a much better venue than the Barclays Center. Yeah, the Barclays Center might be newer, but it's not a better venue than Madison freaking Square Garden. And the Big East tournament is so classic and so ingrained in New York City. I don't understand. Look at the Big East model. Like, look at them.
You're literally
they stayed in New York City. It works every single time. They've never had problems. Stay in Greensboro. That's where the ACC belongs.
They've literally created more competition for themselves by interfering with what the Big East has in New York. They've created more competition.
And you're not finding a more central location than Greensboro in a venue that's going to work more with the ACC than Greensboro Coliseum.
100%.
Absolutely ridiculous. I can't stand this. And then I guarantee you, they haven't announced the tournament sites. They're probably going to announce that soon. It's probably going to be Brooklyn, DC, and Charlotte.
They're going to phase Greensboro out.
100%. What a joke. The ACC is in such a crisis right now, too, because they just came out. The article just came out. I believe it was The Athletic, but I could be wrong. That ACC football attendance is at a 40-year low since the early 80s or late 70s. I mean, ACC football is terrible.
Yep.
Because they just relied on the backs of Clemson and Florida State for years, and now that they're not good, they're in a crisis. Basketball is horrible.
Basketball's in a down year.
Basketball is arguably the worst Power 5 conference in Division I right now.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a conference I would put below them.
No, not Power 5. And there's even some non-Power 5s I put above them.
I would put the Big East over them. And the Big East isn't even technically Power 5 right now.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I agree with you.
And, I'm sorry, but if Jim Phillips doesn't change things, then there's got to be real concern. But the fact that their main concern right now is figuring out relocation because they don't want to live in Greensboro, North Carolina, give me a break.
Yeah.
Then don't take the job.
Facts.
You know what you're Northwestern.
You know what you're getting into.
Absolutely ridiculous. But last thing on college basketball we'll go over. We'll do a quick Final Four predictions. Do you want to go first? I'm pissed off, by the way. But
yeah, I can tell you're a little fired up right now. A little revved up.
Gosh,
I like this.